Yeah, man. Happy to be here. Appreciate the invite. I pretty much grew up in the firehouse. My grandfather was a volunteer fireman in Amboy, town where I live in currently. Joined there in the 1950s, and then he retired as the chief of the department in 1998, and then passed away just a couple of years later. My dad also is on the department. He joined in 1988, and he's the current fire chief as well. So I think he's getting close to retirement. Probably in the next 5 years or so, he'll probably retire, is my guess. But yeah, I mean, my mom is on the department as an EMT. My sister is as well, and my sister's a dispatcher too for the local Lee County Sheriff's Department. And then my wife actually is on the department as well. So family affair. So yeah, so that's kind of where I got drawn in. So I was kind of crawling around there on the bay floors when I was in diapers, and kind of been there ever since. Yeah, I think so. I mean, my grandfather was the one that started it, and just you he kind of had to start with it, and then his brother actually joined a little later too, and then he died at a younger age though. But kind of it was cool. Like the wives of the firemen back there, they had what's called like the flamettes, so they were involved too. So like when a fire came in, they came down and cooked breakfast or dinner for the guys, depending on when the call was. So pretty interesting. So when my dad, I think he was uh I was 16 years old, and a bunch of firemen's kids that I was friends with. We all went to school together. We were in high school, and there was five of us, and then there was one other one that kind of had some interest in joining the fire department, but we were 16 and between 16 and 18 years old. So the department decided to make a cadet program. So we made a cadet program from 16 to 18 years old. And in 2007, I was 16 years old and joined the fire department as a cadet. We were able to show up to monthly meetings, monthly trainings, and they would take us on less quote unquote serious calls later. But the very first call we went on was a dude that smacked a tree. So, I mean, with ATV, but
Yep.
but yeah, I mean, it was good exposure. And I stayed on that, stayed on that department, and became a probie once I turned 18, and then became a fireman after that. It was great. They paid for all of, the training and classes and everything. Became an EMT there, and then went on to paramedic school, and just kind of kept going forward in my career from there. Stayed there until I got hired in Aurora, but worked a couple other jobs as well.
A couple other fire jobs, or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, once I got my paramedic, I was really young. I was probably 20 years old or 19 or 20 years old when I got my paramedic, and uh, went to work for a department in Bureau County called Princeton. They were the only full-time agency in that whole county. Worked down there for 2 years part-time. Fantastic department. They kind of went everywhere in the county. It was a good department, good people. Learned a lot there. And then from there, I got hired actually as a at Citgo Oil Lamont Refinery as a fireman. I worked there for 1 year to the day, exactly, and then it was a contract job, so I switched contracts and went and worked for Shanahan Fire Protection District. And same thing, I literally worked 1 year to the day, and then I got hired by Aurora.
That's quite a renaissance, man. Like that's all over the place. That's cool. So I take it that I mean obviously all those departments had differences. What were some of the major ones between them as you went through them?
Well, Princeton was very rural, which I was kind of used to. But their ambulance district was just massive. I mean, we're talking 15, 20 miles just to get to the call. So that was quite interesting. Um, and then Citgo was interesting because that was completely different. Their engines carried no water; it was just foam. And then you hook up to the hydrant. Basically, the engine is one giant gate valve, and the hydrant pressure is 200 psi. So yeah,
Oh my god.
it, yeah, it was interesting. And then Shanahan was your typical suburban department. Great people. I got pretty lucky for where I landed over there on the shift that I did. Um, and then now where I'm at, I'm blessed and happy where I'm at right now. So
That's awesome. I mean, the Sitco man, 200 psi of a hydrant. That's insane. And
yeah, well they did foam operations for
yeah,
everything, so that was like just the standard.
what kind of like onboarding did they do for you? Because obviously that's a completely different type of firefighting.
Yeah, it was I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks, kind of training for that one.
That's like some specialized shit. That's cool. So over the course of that, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna kind of know the answer to this, but either way, maybe you'll surprise me. But firefighter culture, values, where did that come from? I'm assuming family, but if not, that's cool. But where did you learn about that, and how did you learn about it?
Yeah, it probably came from my home department when I was in Amboy for 7-ish years or so. I mean, pancake breakfasts with the community. You got food drives and stuff you would do for the people that were not as wealthy. You go and give them stuff for Christmas gifts, all those things. That's kind of where just you do what you can for your community. Kind of a value.
Yeah,
And then like the department always just took care of you. Whatever you needed, they took care of you. If people needed help doing something, you just send a group text out, and you always got at least a couple people to show up.
yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be, right? I mean, at least in my opinion, but I grew up with that too, and in Antioch, my first apartment was very much like that as well. So that's cool. It just seems like the community fire department vibe. If you're fortunate enough to be part of that, like you were, like you carry that with you, right? Like I feel like do you still have those values and you still try to implement them in your full time job?
Yeah, I mean, we where I work now, we do a Boys for Tots, so we give Christmas gifts to people in need as well here, and things like that. So I mean, it carries over. Just with the smaller town, we were doing it for our neighbors, and we knew those people. That was the main difference.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense. So we'll get into the meat of stuff, and we'll go right into talking about fire nuggets. So like when we were talking in the green room before, I mentioned like personally, like I've seen fire nuggets. I know they exist. I know they've been around, and but I feel like I've never dove into really what Fire Nuggets is, who you guys are, and what you represent, and what you do. So, could you share some of that and enlighten other people too that aren't totally aware?
Yeah, so in the late 1990s, like 98, 99, Paul Schuler and Ted Corporandi, they were firemen out in California, um, I believe San Jose and Sacramento. They decided to create Fire Nuggets, and basically it was a virtual online magazine. It was a subscription-based thing. They did that for, I want to say 7, 8 years, something like that. Maybe till they slowed down their editions at least. But basically by 2010, they weren't really doing much any of it. So as it kind of started dwindling down, 2014, Berkeley firefighters decided to buy the company, and they made it a nonprofit. So from there, everything changed. It wasn't a magazine or article company or anything like that. It actually became like a training organization. But we don't really necessarily put the training on, we facilitate it. So people have trouble, with funding and registrations, getting hand tools, contacting instructors, flights, hotels. That's where we come in, and we handle all that. So since 2014, that's kind of what's been going on. And they started what's called as affiliates. So NorCal was the very first one. So Northern California, those are the guys that started it. And ever since then, they've kind of been growing. They started Boise, Colorado, Arizona, and the PNW. And then I decided I was reading some articles from Fire Nuggets actually, and I saw you could become an affiliate. So I sent an email out, and then in 2018 I started the Illinois affiliate, and we started running classes and stuff. And I mean it's nothing groundbreaking. Basically, we have the funding to bring in people, pay for their flights, pay for the hotel, the food, the logistics such as hand tools, smoke machines, everything, you name it. We do the upfront, we run the registration to make the money back, and then none of us take a paycheck. None of us get paid for any of it. We just do it to highlight training and get training in those select areas. And the cool thing is somebody could reach out to us that doesn't have an affiliate like a Pennsylvania or something, and they could be like, hey, we need help doing a registration for a class, trying to helping us out. And yeah, we'll do it. So we run it for them. We send them what the leftover is. They can do whatever they want with it. They can donate it or whatever, or put it towards the next class. And so I started Illinois in 2018. A couple cool things happened right away. Like we ran a search class with Brothers in Battle, and 2 weeks after we ran the class, two Iowa firefighters that came to the class, they made one of their departments like first ever documented rescues 2 weeks after the class. So it was just pretty interesting and cool stuff. And then I hosted what's called the Midwest Area Fire Academy with a couple people helping me out. We have since stopped doing it just because of firemanship coming and stuff. So it's don't want to have too much clashing and stuff. But it was cool. My dad was part of the thought process behind that conference back in 2009, and it just never went. So I wanted to bring it up. So 10 years later in 2019, we ran it. It was like 5 locations up near Rockford. Had around 212 students, I think. And, we were able to raise about 3 or 4 grand, and we donated it to the burn camp IME for kids. And then like just some other cool stuff. I got to become a board member in 2020, and then we started doing some virtual series, helping kind of like, I mean, it was COVID, right? So
Yeah.
we did virtual series so people could still get some training. And then we still have bills, like we have website fees, all sorts of different stuff that we have to pay for, the nonprofit 501c3 renewal stuff. So we did online classes, and then so I became a board member in 2020, and then 2022 they voted me in to be the vice president. And then it isn't announced yet, but we had our board meeting 2 weeks ago, and they voted me in to be the next president currently. So January 1 is when I'll take that over. So yeah, pretty excited about that. Um, so some interesting things. We have affiliates all over the country. I mean, we got, like I said, Boise, Pacific Northwest. We got Hawaii, NorCal and SoCal, Texas, Colorado, Montana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Indiana, New York, Virginia. I think there's one more. It's slipping my mind, but I mean, these places have done some really cool things. Like the Pacific Northwest, they have raised and donated over $52,000 since they've been, a affiliate. Texas, 44,000. Mile High Fire Conference ran out of Colorado. They've done well over $100,000, and they put everything right back into Colorado. So firefighters that need help with medical benefits, equipment, tools, scholarships, you name it, they do it. Wyoming was the one I couldn't think of because I had something to say about them. But they they've been pretty successful over the last 3 years. They've raised probably close to 35 to 40,000, and they're looking at using those funds to build their own training facility with that. And those are all things that like we can kind of help facilitate and help with. And again, we're not doing it for anything, so there's nothing to gain other than training, right? So we do that. So if anybody needs anything, you just reach out and we see if we can help you. We run a budget and we make sure that it works, and then we help you with registration and everything. That's what we do. And we've also been able to give stuff away. So like we just did our second year in nozzle grants. We gave 3 departments in need some nozzles for their fire departments. So I just started getting pictures. They were receiving them now, so it's cool.
That's awesome. Wow. That's some homegrown shit. That's cool. Does Fire Nuggets cover like insurance or anything if you do hands-on classes? How does that work?
So we have a insurance girl. If you're going to do a hands-on class, and typically the instructors are the ones that have the insurance. That's typically what's supposed to happen. But if they don't, and you're worried, or the training site is worried, we can apply for additional insurance, and then we just pay for it off the top.
Okay. So like an instructor wants to do like a ventilation class, and they go and set that up, and they would typically have their own insurance, like as a person, like personal liability or something. And I know that's kind of some technical stuff. I'm not really that knowledgeable in it because the only thing I can never think of is like, for me, IFSI hosts a class through Cornerstone, or a department does a thing locally, so the departments pick up that tab. This is outside of that, right? So how does that work?
Yeah, so typically, like people, if they're teaching, some people don't, and but other people do. They have their own businesses. Typically, if somebody has their own business, they have their own insurance. Typically.
Okay. All right.
But if they don't, that's something that we could apply for as well.
Okay.
So.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, when you said 2010, where Fire Nuggets kind of fell off for a little bit, that would make sense of why I've heard but never really was part, because that's when I got into the fire service myself. So, yeah, that's really cool what you've done. And dude, I mean, commendable for the amount of work and where you're at. Congratulations, on getting to the presidency of that. I mean, that's a big deal, and that's a lot of work to get to that point. So, seriously, congrats. That's quite an achievement.
Thank you. Yeah. And if you we still have all the art. If anybody listening is interested, we still have all the articles that were ever written. So like Andy Fredericks, people should know that name. If you don't, look him up. We have some articles written by Andy, before unfortunately, 9/11 happened. And I mean, we got Mittendorf, we got Bob Hoff, we got a whole bunch of people. So a whole bunch of articles right there on the website for free. Just go look.
That was my first exposure for sure. Was that there's a Fredericks article about smoothbore nozzles that's pretty famous, right? I think almost every fireman that gets into that stuff has read about that, right? And some big names, right? Some smart people involved, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it, and registration already open, and I'm pretty sure almost everything is full. At least the hot class is already full. But let's talk firemanship. I wish. I don't know what's completely full now, so if anyone's listening and this catches them and they're like, "Holy crap, I gotta go!" I hope there's still some stuff available. Maybe I can look at that while you're talking. But for those people that don't know, it's in your hometown. Well, not your hometown, but it's in Aurora. So share some insight on firemanship.
Yeah. So like I said, with the with the Fire Nuggets, we hosted Brothers in Battle, which Cody Trestrail is the guy behind that, and he had hosted Firemanship for I want to say 4 years on the West Coast in Portland. Very successful. So with COVID and everything, it obviously shut down, unfortunately. And he's been kind of looking for a new place to do it, just because of regulations and problems and issues and things like that. So, he's a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, and he kind of asked one day, and he's like, do you think that Illinois has the infrastructure to do it? And I said, well, yeah. I mean, we have training towers everywhere. So he kind of started looking into some things. We had a bunch of conversations, and big thing was, he wanted the lecture series to be in like a really nice theater. Like he didn't want to do like a hotel conference room or like a high school auditorium or something. So we have the Paramount right in the heart of downtown where I work, and it can hold up to 1,800 people, which that's a lot, right? So when they did it in Portland, they did the Crystal Ballroom, which I think the capacity on that was 700 or 800, and they typically sold it out. So we're capping ours right now for the lecture at 1,500. And right now we have about 800 seats sold for that, which that alone is actually pretty incredible. So, I mean, obviously we hope that as time goes on, the other 700, happen, but
Yeah.
that's still a lot of seats. So that's pretty exciting. And that's a lot of people getting training, and the whole thing behind it is incredible. Most of the instructors, aren't taken, they don't really want anything. They just want to come out and teach and give back. And the whole emphasis behind the conference was a pay it forward. So the classes are $1. So if you're from a povertish area and you are going to have a struggle paying for a flight and a hotel and doing a full conference pass, then pay what you can, and then we'll see you there. But if you can pay more, then you pay more. And, like you said, we had 1,286 hot seats, so hands-on training seats, and well over most of them are gone. So, and then the rest are all what we call workshops, which are basically like one-day lectures that aren't part of the lecture series. So definitely pretty cool. Most of those seats sold out in the first 5 to 10 minutes as well.
Yeah, I was in part of the countdown myself, but yeah, I unfortunately I couldn't do hot classes. However, yeah, the lecture I was just looking, but you already got your numbers. I don't even need to share them because I was gonna help you out at least with the seats remaining, and there's still plenty of stuff here. I saw you guys added something too for spouses, which was pretty cool. I think that's one thing that they've been doing out in Isaacson's area with the Pensacola stuff, and that hasn't made its way. I think like if you want to talk national conference like FDRC or something, it hasn't quite made it to there. How did that come up, and how did those connections happen?
Well, so Todd Edwards is doing the Mid-Rise Mayhem class with Steve Robertson and Jimmy Davis, Jimmy Davis is also a local guy to us, Chicago. And he's doing Mid-Rise Mayhem. Well, his wife, Kathy, they do what's called like the Fire Wife Life. So it's basically introduction to spouses into like what the being a fire wife is like, the good things, the bad things, and basically just networking, right? And kind of talk about some things. So though Kathy and her team are doing the lecture portion. So the same days that the lecture series are, the 3 days, they have a 3 day lecture series as well. So, and then Heather Yowler and Joe Yowler, they run Carolina Fire Days down in North Carolina, and they are doing the hands-on part for the spouses, which already sold out as well. So pretty interesting. They go down and they do a little classroom first, and then all the ladies get gear and equipment and stuff. They'll force doors, they'll flow water, they'll do searches, and then they'll tour a couple firehouses and a couple training sites and kind of see what class their husbands are in, and then they can go out and kind of see what their spouse is doing.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know they were doing a hot thing. To be honest with you, I missed that
Yep.
completely. That's really cool. And I've never heard of anyone really doing that. That's pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited. I mean, the fact that local for me, it selfishly is awesome. But then the lineup that you guys got, the people that are coming, the message behind it, right? And then the way that you guys are doing, registration fees and everything, it's awesome. And doesn't seem like there's much else. I mean, there's a lot of conferences that exist, but that's doing it that way. And I listened to Cody when he was on the Scrap talk about it a couple times, and it's pretty cool. And I hope you fill all 700 whatever seats are left, because it'll be really cool for even if you just get those lecture seats and then whatever other classes are left. I hope you guys fill everything. It'd be really cool. So.
Yeah, I mean the lineup and everything, that's Cody. Cody did a really good job kind of. So like if you want to do, tech rescue stuff, there's elevated safety and peak, if you want to work on machinery rescue, you got that. So he kind of lined up the whole thing, and I already do the stuff with Fire Nuggets, so I was facilitating.
Yeah.
That's what I do. It's right in my wheelhouse. So, and
Yeah.
a lot of the cool pictures and things that you see online, the like publications, I guess, the content, all that is my wife. I'm not that talented, so
Oh yeah.
yeah, she deserves the credit on that. So
That's cool. Yeah, that's a lot of work. I mean, to be making all that stuff too, that's no small task in itself to scratch build a lot of that stuff. So tell her it looks great. When you get I mean, like, I'm a bit of a nerd for that stuff, logo design and stuff. So what she's doing looks great. So she should be proud of it for sure. If she's not already, I'm sure she is. But yeah,
yeah, and I have to say too that the sites that we got, the people have been incredible. Everybody's been great. We got Southern Kane, which I've been there quite a bit. It's right where I work basically. We got 3 classes going out there. We got a local parking garage to do the mid-rise work. We got some other places to do forcible entry. We got training sites from West Chicago. We got Naperville, Batavia, Sugar Grove, Oswego ×2 because they're giving us their tower and their classroom. Romeoville, Darien Woodridge, 2 junkyards. The Peak Rescue and Elevated Safety. They're going to Starved Rock for a day. Just some really cool stuff. So I can't say enough for the people that have really blessed us, Carroll Stream, to give us their sites and allow us to work with them. So we're very appreciative of that, and it wouldn't happen. Naperville, it wouldn't happen if we didn't have those places. So
yeah. I mean, you're everywhere. Plainfield was another one I think that I saw.
Yep. Plainfield, thank you.
Which
Yep.
that facility is really something else too. I got to take a class there.
Yeah,
In the
I'm
beginning.
pretty sure there was like 15 sites or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's easy to get lost.
So how big's your team then that manages like that? I mean, obviously that's a lot to schedule, to have stuff there, right? Like, I mean, even down to like water bottles and stuff. Like, how big is the team that's putting all that together?
So I'm kind of estimating our team will probably be around 200
Yeah.
people, give or take. I mean, we'll have everybody from people running sites to people just helping out delivering lunches, you know, and everything in between. So I'm kind of guessing we'll be right around 200. There's people that reach out, every day, that want to say that they want to help, and we kind of jot their names down and say, okay, man, we'll reach back out.
Yeah.
So because there's going to be a lot of pre-work and a lot of post-work. I mean, when we're in it, we're in it. We need waters and lunches and doors reshimmed and stuff. Depending on what the class is. But the work done before and the work done after is the bulk.
Oh yeah, like I said, I mean, water, food, transport, time organizing, making sure all the right people that are supposed to be. I mean, that's a lot. And Plainfield and West Chicago aren't like next door. That to name two places, like that's crazy. That's pretty spread out, man. I wouldn't even say it takes a village. I feel like it takes a freaking city to do all that. So that's pretty cool. So another organization that you're a part of, uh, we've talked before a little bit, was Fire Rescue Survey, and you just taught a class in my area in Wakanda, which was pretty cool. So thanks for coming and doing that. And that was the theme about it. And any chance I have to kind of talk, or not me talk, but put it out there, especially for people in my area, Fire Rescue Survey. Love to have a platform to share that. So I feel like most people probably know what it is, but if they don't, give them a quick, synopsis of what it is. And then, we were talking green room a little bit before about interpreting the data and using that data for positive things and maybe getting the boogeyman out of the closet for some stuff. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing about Fire Rescue Survey.
Yeah, so it started in 2016. Started with Justin McWilliams, who's on Clackamas Fire, Shane Thomas also on Clackamas, Brian Olson from Eagle, Idaho, and Nick Ledeen, who's on Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And then they had a IT guy help out as well. So kind of get the website up and going. And basically all it was a at the time like a Google form document you fill out. And the reason they started it was, United States Fire Administration and everybody else was always tracking civilian deaths. So we never knew actually how well things were going, how many wins we had. Are we winning? Are we doing good? We don't know. Because, NIFRs, which is voluntary as well, but, you just get grant money if you do it, basically. NIFRs only ask you one question. It asks if there was a civilian death, yes or no, or if there was an injury or a fire death or a fire injury, and that's it. There's no other thing to it, right? So those guys started in 2016, and it's kind of been growing ever since. I came on the team 2019, and we kind of decided to make it official like 2 years ago. We became a nonprofit, 501c3. And I help run that. I'm the treasurer for it. Nick Ledeen's the president, and we have the board. Brian Brush is on the board, Ben Schultz, Jonah Smith, Justin Lorenzen, Jason Marshall, Lane Zahurik, and then also those original founders as well. So pretty lucky to have that team. I mean, we just keep growing. We surpassed 3,000 rescues at the end of last year, recorded. And just because it's a rescue doesn't mean it's a civilian save either. So we're at about like a 68% survival rate. So when people put in a rescue, and just so we understand this, you can go to our website, firefighterrescuesurvey.com. It has everything on there. It has the data. It has how you can fill out a survey, where to fill out a survey, definition of a rescue, and everything like that. So if you go there and fill one out, kind of what we define as a rescue is somebody's in fire gear, full equipment, and without the intervention of the fire department, there would be, grave injury or death to the person. So if the person's stuck on the third floor balcony and flames are rolling behind them, if we don't throw a 28-foot ladder to them, they only got two choices: either burning to death or jumping and hoping everything's okay, right? So that would uh, that would count as a rescue for us. Yes. Now there is some that come out. Some we don't really condone, like if they're burnt, and dead, that they those get tracked. Those do not get tracked. So, um, kind of some cool things that we've done recently. We have a data validation team now. So, Jason and Katie, they go in and they actually check and make sure that our entries are legit. So what they do is we've had duplicates. Two main ones. We had one that was like 4 or 5, and basically what it was 4 or 5 people on the company were just excited to turn one in, and they all turned one in, which I thought was kind of cool. And then we had one that was like around a dozen plus, and the only thing we could think of is the guy probably doesn't like us, so he probably just wanted to try to skew the data, which 12 out of 3,000 really isn't much, but they go in and then delete them, and then we reevaluate. So about every 1,000 rescues is when we evaluate, and we're getting pretty close to 4,000. So we'll probably hit 4,000 midpoint next year. We're doing about 600 to 800 rescues logged per year, which there's definitely way more than that, because the way like the United States Fire Administration tracks civilian death is they literally do it off of news releases. So if a news release comes out that a civilian died, that's how USFA does their check mark. So in 2021, we did that same thing. So we went in and we looked up rescues by news releases, and we were in the low 2,000s for rescues across the fire service, which, if you know about civilian death, we're at about 3,000, 3,500 per year. So if you look at a chart, actually, if you look at structure fires, residential structure fires in the United States over the years, and this is going to piss people off, but over the years, realistically, it has been declining a little bit, right? It's not the 80s or 90s anymore. But civilian death has stayed the same and even inclined a little bit as well. So that's kind of why these guys wanted to start this, was how do we get more rescues? Is there things that we're missing or things that we could do better? So we track everything. We track, I'll just pull this up real quick. We got this thing called Just the Numbers, and it gives us everything. So we do the time of day that it happens. We do, so like things operationally that we could look into adjusting is clean cab organizations, right? So we ask, is the SCBA in the seat or is it on the outside versus the rescue? And 83% of rescues, being done or recorded, the SCBA was found in the seat, and then we do that by survival too. So if their SCBA was in the seat, we're in the 70+% range. But if they had to go outside to go and get their SCBA, it drops, 4% for the numbers. So, I mean, just interesting little things like that. We do time of day, where they're at, the bedroom, family room, hallway, kitchen, bathroom, foyer. We track all of those, and then just kind of keep going a little bit here. The dispatch time until the fire department arrives, and then we track, when we have that initial data piece, we track recorded rescues versus survival as well. So was there survival or did they not? Reports of victims, who made the statement about victims, were there multiple victims found in the room, was search initiated pre-knockdown or post-knockdown, was search started before writ or after the writ assignment was given, the number of floors we have, exterior conditions, number of firefighters on scene, visibility, conditions, did the structure appear abandoned, yes or no, was there smoke alarms? I mean, there's some stuff that like you don't really find super cool, like smoke alarms and close before you doze, but some interesting things like if if the occupants had their door shut and they had working smoke alarms, they had a 95% survival. So
Yeah.
just, I mean, we do everything. And I mean, as long as you're cool with it, I'll kind of hit some of the cliff notes.
No,
That I think
please,
are
please
really,
share.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the big things, is we kind of just push that, search isn't this like terrifying thing. Number one, it's our job. It's our reason. It's our like sole reason we exist, right? Like when people call us, they expect us to pull them out. I'm sure if you went out and ran a survey from your community, that would be exactly what their expectations are, is you go there, you put out the fire, you bring them out, right? Shouldn't be shocking. And to kind of hit on those numbers, we've already talked about the United States Fire Administration, but they also, track firefighter deaths as well, line of duty deaths. So that's kind of something where this ties in a little bit, is people always get terrified that, firefighters are dying in massive amounts of waves to where we shouldn't be doing, like aggressive search and ventilation operations and things like that, right? So in 2008, the United States Fire Administration started putting the cause behind or what the firefighter was doing when they died. So like advancing a hose line, search and rescue operations, things like that. So from 2008 until now, there has been 16 line of duty deaths when it comes to search. 16. So people say, 100 of us die, 100 firefighters die each year, right? And that's the number they always use, right? And they do, right? Cardiac arrest, cancer, vehicle accidents, things like that. But we're not going, 100 of us aren't going into a structure every year and dying. It's not, so like that scary boogeyman thing can go out the corner. We still got a job to do, right? And 2 of those were on a secondary search. And then one of them was when somebody was trying to evac out of the building. So realistically, primary search was 13 for the last 16 years. So about one or less per year doing search and rescue operations. Commercial is a little bit of a different thing. There's 8, but those are kind of the tracking that we did just to see what we were at. So when we look at, do you guys use the term fully involved a lot?
I wouldn't say a lot, but it's definitely, it's in our vocabulary, right?
Okay, so like one thing, that we talk about is like exterior conditions when we ask things. So if somebody rolls up to a fire that you're at and they say, engine blah, blah, blah is on scene, we got a 2-story wood frame fully involved, and you're second due, what are you thinking?
Well, don't get me in trouble. It depends on who's talking on the radio, to be honest with you.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
I'll answer for you. So like master streams, water supplies.
I get where you're going. Yes.
Fire blowing out of everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? So they're typically calling the fully involved even before they walk around the building, right? Because the engine, pulls up, pulls past, right?
Yeah.
So you see 1, 2, 3, but you don't see the rear, right? And like we've had rescues reported, and the people like email us, call us, whatever, and like they're they find people in the bathroom, and the bathroom doesn't have a window typically, right?
Yeah.
And like there's one rescue my friend Justin had, and the kid was in the bathroom, and like you look at this hallway, and the hallway is just torched. Like you would never think anybody would survive, but the door was shut, right? So, and here's something crazy. So like 6% of the rescues that are recorded initially went defensive. So they pull up and initially, hey, we're going defensive, right? And then 34% of those people survived.
Yeah.
Which I mean, yeah, that's a low percentage, but still, you got to think if you're going defensive, right? Like, what does it look like from the outside? And I mean, there's still people in there, right? And then we also have the tools and equipment to make us go offensive, being water.
Yeah.
Right. So we make the space, and then we go offensive. Kind of another verbiage thing that we talk about is vacant structures, right? So when people call structures vacant, typically that's a no, right? People don't go in, things like that. So 3% of our rescues being recorded have happened in vacant structures. So, you know, people talk about maybe changing the verbiage to abandoned rather than, a vacant,
Yeah.
right? So just little things like that. Let's see here. So let's see. So and then like reports. So reports of victims, there's basically three answers. There's yes, there's reports of victims. It's mom outside saying, hey, little Susie's up there in that window, right? So when it's a positive report, we're finding that like 80% of those reports are accurate, which so like a positive report, that's probably a good thing to listen to, right? If there's key indicators, target your search a little bit more, right? Um, the next one is yes, everyone's out of the structure. Now this one is a big killer because what does this do? So if you roll up and they say everybody's out of the structure, what do you think people think?
So yeah, most people start to pull back. Most people start to kind of ease off on things. They don't think about that stuff, right? They go into a less aggressive mode, right, when they hear that stuff.
Yeah, so their mindset drops from
Yeah,
search and rescue to a more of like, oh, just fire attack.
yeah,
We just got to get this thing knocked out. We use a truck company for overhaul, and things like that. Well, 3%, so over 100 people have been rescued when people say that everybody's out of the home. And
yeah,
this is everything from like malicious reasoning to parents, like accidentally. Like it could be a dad, daughter's having a sleepover. He didn't realize that his daughter had a friend over, right? So just things like that. So people are talking about maybe not if like dispatch says, hey, we got reports of everybody out, then dispatch doesn't even say that to
yeah.
the fire companies, right? Because it changes the mindset completely of everybody. Um, what else? And then when you got positive reports too, it might not be a bad idea to ask, two main questions, right? If she says my baby's in there, uh, like who is your baby? Like, or, because is it a dog? Or instead of like a baby, like we've had a baby being inside. My friend Justin had this one. The baby was a 250-pound kid.
Yeah.
That's a big difference, right? For what you're searching for. And then the other thing would be, where's the bedroom for that kid? What else? Um, just going through my notes here.
No, you're okay. You're okay. I was gonna segue. So we had Sean Duffy jump here in the chat over on the Facebook side here, and it called to mind. I went to FDIC this year. I go most years, and I took a class that he was involved with teaching, so that was pretty cool. But I've seen a shift in the way that we teach using those statistics, right? And it's been great. And one of the questions I was going to ask you, and I can give you my perspective so you kind of get where I'm coming from, was like, what piece of data, and it can't just be one thing, but a piece of data that changed maybe your mindset or your belief in things or totally changed what you were taught. And like, for example, for me, like I was always taught, close to the fire and work your way back. And now, with some of the data that's coming out from the group, from Firefighter Rescue Survey, it's like, okay, well, maybe you instead of that, you bet on bedrooms, common places, and hallways rather than necessarily fire and work your way back, about being more intelligent about where you put your people. And I think that's my department. We're trying to make that mindset shift. What's the biggest, like, totally changed your belief and mindset of how you operate things based on the data that you got out of Firefighter Rescue Survey? What's one that really stands out to you?
That what we're doing, actually, works, right? So, I mean, out of the 3,000 rescues, we're at like a 68%, survival rate. And, that's good. That's right on cue with like cardiac arrest survivability rates and things like that. So there's I I can't really label it down to one thing,
Sure,
So
yeah.
like the problem I think is not only do those line of duty death stats, scare the shit out of people, and then people use kind of it to, I guess somewhat fear monger, right?
Yeah.
But also too, like when I was taught search, when I took Firefighter 2 in like 2008, right? They put my hood over my mask. They put me in a training room, which was like a 20 by 15 cinder block room with not a goddamn thing in it, nothing, zero
Yeah.
things. And they had me put a tool in my left hand, and then my right boot stayed on the wall, and then my right hand stayed on my partner's boot. And if my hand came off my partner's boot, they yelled at me that I was gonna die.
Yeah. Right.
So like that was the initial training, and like how do you recover from that, right? And so I think that's a lot of the problem, and I think training wise we've come a long way from that. So I think that's where we're lucky that we don't really have that going on much anymore. And I mean, we got a whole bunch of information out there. You just have to apply it appropriately. And that's something that I, screw up sometimes, right? Like you get all this information, you want to do all this good shit, and sometimes you don't really apply it the right way.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I definitely know what you're talking about. Yeah, and I think that's also you hit the nail on the head. That's where I was coming from about talking about like Sean, or any really a lot of these guys that are teaching and are being highlighted nationally. There's a reason, right? And seeing the way that they're teaching, undoing those training scars, just like what you're talking about, where you'll see people, if they haven't been exposed to that stuff, they hit the ground and they don't know what to do. Like they just default to a wall and they miss stuff and they're not really actually searching, and it's cool to see. I hope it trickles down to fire academies, kind of like, sounds like we both had a similar experience of that kind of training scar, and I don't know how that gets changed, curriculum wise, but maybe it does someday. I don't know.
Yeah, and I kind of want to go back to what you were saying with like Sean, with what Sean was kind of highlighting, and focusing on certain parts of the building and stuff like that. So like I'm pretty lucky where I'm at. We get two engines in a truck automatically going to a fire. Excuse me. So we get those units going. So depending on where the fire is where it's going to depend where like search and rescue, like the truck company is assigned search, right? So depending on where the fire is at is going to really dictate that for us, and it should dictate that for everybody,
Yeah.
right? So like I don't think it's a default go as close as you can to the fire and work back, right? Like if it's 3 a.m. and the fire's in the kitchen, right? Maybe do a real quick sweep in the living room and in the front foyer area, and then boop, bop upstairs, right?
Yeah.
The engine company can handle the fire room and the room adjacent.
Yeah, the engine company's going to the
I don't think we're gonna really mess around with the first floor. We're gonna go straight up to 2. Rather than the next in companies can kind of handle 1, because you can see clearly, right?
Yeah.
So I it's a shitty answer and nobody really likes it, but that's what a lot of it is. It depends, because you can't really dictate what people are going to do, and that's not only the people in the house or the people in the street. You can't dictate what the people working around you are even going to do, because you don't know what they're thinking.
Well, yeah, because if they all had that same default, right, of let me find a wall and put my boot on it, I can you blame them? Yeah, I'm not going to say blame them. Like, if they've never been taught anything different, like, well, yeah, that's what you expect, right? That's kind of what you're getting at is you kind of, you have to figure out the limitations of people and what they've been educated on, and hopefully you can share the information in a way where it's accepted, which is the struggle, to be honest, right? Like, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, kind of just moving on here, like through my notes, like there's some cool stuff that I think a lot of people don't think about, and I know Sean, since he's in the chat, he's kind of doing a class on this, I believe, but it's something so simple that you can go out and drill in, but drags is a huge one. There's I'm trying to think of how to say this. So like it was found basically that if the occupant's head stayed, or the victim's head stayed on the floor, right? So like a foot or below, they had a better chance of survival than somebody that was elevated to 3 foot for a third of that time, basically.
Yeah.
So like the whole like combat challenge drag, that people
Yeah.
do, like
Where
that's
you're,
stuff that
yeah.
we should possibly not think about doing, maybe going to like a leg drag or like a wrist lock or something like that instead. And that's something that's so simple. You just go down the freaking bay and just, hey, lay down,
Yeah.
right? I want to work on this. And that's like you said, training scar earlier. That's another one, man, because we put us firefighters and nobody wants to, screw up their clothes and shit. So we put our bunker gear on when we teach search and rescue. And then they're stuck searching for us in bunker gear. And that's kind of little training scars. So like when like our fire academy does search and rescue, we wear like shorts, t-shirts, whatever typical stuff that you would wear to bed,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
No, that's great. Those little things, but those little things really do matter. Like, because, like you said, the opportunity for firefighters. Yeah, if you working in a place that's going to a lot of fires, right? Sure, you have more opportunity, but a lot of places in the suburbs, you don't really get. You maybe get one shot a career, to pull somebody out, and if you're not prepared for that, to find them naked or in shorts or something like that. Those training scars are huge, and everyone has them, myself included. Everyone has training scars, right? Because we're trying to create a realistic training environment for something that we just can't. Like, you can't. I mean, you can do the best you can, but it's never going to be right up to being a structure fire with a real person in a smoke-filled environment. Like, it's real smoke, like all that stuff. I, but what you guys are doing, having data, facts, now you can take someone's experience from Oklahoma, and a guy from Illinois can read about a rescue that someone made and interpret what happened, and then use that information to make an educated decision or develop an educated lesson plan to teach other people. So what other cool things did you have, and data points?
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna kind of just talk,
Yeah.
like you know, uh, when it comes to training and stuff too, I also think not only with using like like us, like you have to use real people because dummies just doesn't really do it. So like when you use real people, right? Typically, if you use smoke machines instead of real smoke machines actually do a really good job. They catch a bad rap sometimes, but they do a phenomenal job for what they do. Um, I mean that in training, and then we also use like babies and stuff. Not real babies, but we'll go and get some dolls from Walmart, and we'll kind of stuff them a little bit so they weigh about 12 to 15 pounds. Those are good and important things to do. You got to have real stuff too. You got to have real beds, dressers, doors, cribs, and then like do the door orientations the right way. So like if it's a master bedroom, right? Have the bathroom door swing inward and have the closet swing outward, right? So they actually have to think about what they're doing because, if you go in through that door and you want to isolate the door and stuff like that, right? You could, accidentally screw up and grab the wrong door. You got to really think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
So just like realistic training environments, add a little bit of stress, have a mom outside, things like that. So yeah, and then another thing too is, and it's a super easy thing you could think about. You could just talk about it on the bay, really. Just look at a house and be like, okay, the officer, right, is going to do a size up, right? But everybody realistically should. So if you're looking at a standard like 2.5 story wood frame, and you're looking at the house and you see the picture window on the right, that's kind of probably indicating what, a living room.
Yeah.
Right? And then you look to the left, door frames in the center, you look to the left, and they got like one of these, and a lot of these 2 stories where I work are like this. They got like a rectangle window on the side of the house.
Yeah.
Usually
Yeah.
usually indicates like the landing, like 2-3 steps up.
I know what you mean.
And
Yeah.
then there's a door off the driveway. It's flush with the ground, right? And then there's like 2 steps up to the left, kitchen, basement below, and then what's usually stacked on top of a stair. Another stairwell going to 2, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basement stairs below, right? So then you're like, okay, well that's how I get to 2 right there. So you can call it a search size up, whatever. But if fire's blown out of 2 and you're on the engine, then it's just your size up on how the hell to get to the second floor.
Yeah.
So little things like that.
Yeah, that's like the best analogy is like when soldiers they go to, I don't know, perform their job. They're going to go on an op, right? And they've researched the lay of the land. They know their exits. They know all this other stuff. And I'm not a soldier, so I don't know all the lingo, but I'm generalizing, right? It's the same thing. It's you showing up and doing that, so you know where you're going to go, your exits, and all that shit. Like, yeah, that stuff's absolutely important, and especially for search, right? About where you're going to go, maximizing your time. You're hitting the nail on the head again. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, and like we said, like rescue, right? It's our whole mission. So when we drill and train, you could always throw in rescue or search things into it. So like if you do forcible entry, here's a good one. So forcible entry, per our stats, we typically find a victim about 10% of the time within 6 foot of that entrance and egress and ingress. Sorry. So about 10% of the time we find a victim. So we could do a force door, force the door, go in, do a live fire layout call out. So you get in your belly down on the ground, get a box light, checking for any life that you could see on the ground because you just created, an intake, right? So all that shit's gonna be pushing in. You can kind of see a little bit. So you're gonna be looking down. You're gonna be looking for life. Do I see any fire? Where is it at? And then we're looking at the layout of the structure as well. And then we'll do a quick call out. Hey, fire department, call out, right? And that's the same thing can be said for like a window. So if we, ladder a porch roof and they got windows up there, or, if we ladder a window and we're going to make entry in there, sweep the floor, sound it, live fire layout, 6% of people are found there. And it shouldn't really shock anybody because people are trying to get out,
Yeah.
right? And then they ate too much, bad stuff and they went down.
Yeah.
So those are kind of ways that we could, incorporate some search and rescue things into that. Let's see what else we got here. Bedrooms were the number one place that people were found 24 hours a day. Some of our stats came from COVID time too, so I don't know
Yeah.
how bad that kind of screwed everything up. But bedrooms were the number one, ranging anywhere from 34% of the time to 54% of the time. 54% of the time, being obviously, after midnight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see what else. Bunk beds. So kind of some things that we talk about with bunk beds. There is a little thing we got here. So this happened in Medford, Oregon in 2018. They went in and they found a 3-year-old girl crouched on the bottom bunk crying. She's conscious and she's crying, right? They reach up top of the bunk bed and they find a 5-year-old girl unconscious. And so just literally that small little size gap is the biggest difference between really bad stuff to, just bad stuff, right? So like that's a big thing. If we're doing like search and rescue drills, have bunk beds, top, high to low, search high to low, right? Feel up the bed frame and things like that. And the same analogy applies for, second floor, first floor,
Yeah.
right? All that stuff's going to go somewhere,
Yeah.
right? Let's see here. What else do I got? So kind of something that was interesting. We started asking this. We got about 250-ish plus surveys in this, but if we have a drop down, so were multiple victims found performing the rescue, and if they clicked yes, it dropped another drop down, and then the question asked, were they found in the same room or within like a vicinity of each other? And that one was 61% yes. And Larry McCormick, he's a squad 5 guy. He always said, nobody likes to die alone. It's like moms are going to go get their kids, right?
Yeah.
Or you would hope any parent goes and gets their kids.
Yeah.
So that's what happens, right? They go, they grab their kid, eat too much bad shit, and then they go down, right? So that's why when we talk about, incorporate drags and stuff in your trainings, you can do a sweep around the victim, see if you feel more than just one, right? Let me see. And then kind of lastly, as far as it comes like data wise, like I don't want to go too deep, but we even started looking at some stuff like cyano kits.
Yeah.
So Oklahoma City's probably the biggest department I know that does it, but they give cyano kits to pretty much all their fire victims, and they have some really good results, like almost 70% survival rate.
Wow.
So really cool stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the end all be all, but it is a good resource in my opinion. But obviously, you have to look at the information and know how to apply it correctly, just like anything else.
Yeah.
And last thing, sorry,
No.
what's what's really cool is we got some big organizations that actually have adopted it into policy. Oklahoma City's one of them. Phoenix, Charlotte, North Carolina. So basically, anytime they have a rescue, they have somebody in the training division or in operations, they'll go in and they'll fill out a survey. And Oklahoma is actually one of the ones, they actually do their own internal. So then if they have like, they had something crazy like a couple years ago, they had like 22 rescues in a year or something. But they found like 8 of their rescues were from one pocket. So they focused their fire prevention efforts a little bit more in that pocketed
Wow.
area. And you know, it's cool.
That
You know,
is
we
cool.
got but like LA County is looking at possibly kind of coming on board too, which would probably be our biggest organization to date. But you know, we told them the same thing. We're like, hey, you know, this is information. How you choose to interpret it, it's your data, facts, information. You know, whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah, I think one of the ones it was about like thermal imaging cameras, and there was a whole thing where someone was trying to crap on thermal imaging, and they were pulling some local to me, not like nationally or anything like that. It was like, see, rescue survey shows this about. I don't remember the exact point they were trying to make, and it was like easily debunked. So it is still data, like you're saying, but used properly and for good. Like it seems like it proves a lot of the stuff that many people have already known, but now there's something behind it, right? It's the street. It's real. You can't take that away.
Yeah, and to kind of back up the tick thing, you know, right? Like not all of our surveys have asked like a tick question.
Yeah.
So like we don't have the the I don't know what you'd say, like the fair numbers, I guess.
Yeah.
But like Andy Starn says it perfectly. People unfortunately like don't use it appropriately.
Yeah.
Like the tick, right, is meant like if you see the fire, you don't need the tick to show you where the hell the fire is, right?
Yeah.
So people are always looking up with a tick, whereas the victims are going to be down, right? They're not going to be crawling on the ceiling.
Yeah.
So you got to look down with your sweep with the camera rather than up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and
Which-
I'm not like a huge like tick person, but that's kind of what he was talking with me about one time.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, I mean, properly used ticks is a totally different animal, right? I think one of the things he says, and I just actually that was the class that Sean was part of, was, and he says one of the best things you can do with a tick is not use it. Like the guy is teaching a tick class, and that's what he says, so, which always just cracks me up. Like, but it's the truth. Like, there's a point, right? If you can see the fire,
Yeah. Right.
kind of don't need it. Well, you know. With another little thing with rescue survey. So, what was a piece that maybe like surprised you the most, right? Like I know I kind of asked a little bit about like what maybe changed your mindset, but what was something that was like a surprise to you coming from some of the information?
Let me see. I mean, nothing really like jumped out at me and surprised me. I would actually say more of the surprise was that more people didn't see this as being normal or like average, I guess, you know, right? Like when people see our data, they're like, "Oh, this is great," and it's like, dude, like, you know, we're assigned search. You know, 100% of people have been found inside when you do a search, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
somebody's inside, right? Like, if you have a successful rescue, like they're inside the building, right?
Yeah.
So like it's literally when you go to a fire, right? You get tapped out. You should expect that there's a fire, and you should just expect that there's people,
Yeah.
because then that gets your mindset dialed in. You don't have anything to deviate from.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else with Rescue Survey or no?
No, man. I mean, we you can just go check out our site. If you have any questions, ask us on there. It's linked to our emails, and we can help you out with anything you need.
Cool. Yeah. I put it in the chat here on Facebook too. So if you're interested, there's a link to Fire Nuggets, or Firemanship was in there as well, and I'll throw Fire Nuggets in there while I'm thinking about it. But while I'm looking that up, or I'm putting that in there, one of the things that, and just in this conversation with you, that I've noticed that's cool, and I guess cool. Maybe my vocabulary is not super great tonight, but it seems like you wanted to get involved in these things, right? You personally, and you made it happen, right? You found your way to get part of the bigger fire service world, right? And you know, if for like, you know, say a young guy who's just getting into the job and is looking to really be into it and want to be part of those things, what advice would you have for let's say like a 1 to 2 year person just getting into the job, got bit by it, wants to get involved in the fire service more so than just their immediate area?
Keep doing what you're doing. Especially with like that tenure, man. I mean, it's you got a long time. I mean, 1 or 2 years, you still got 20 plus. You know, you should be working on perfecting what you do for your entire career, but at a minimum, you know, 15, 20 years really before you you know, kind of go out and start doing a lot of stuff, right? Number one, clout, right? Like you can't go to the fire academy, have 2 years, go and get instructor one. You got this, you know, cool little certificate. And, you know, I'm a terrible example of this. Like, I got tapped to ask when I was, you know, 24, 25 to help out with like an SCBA class, you know, maybe even like 23. But like, you know, I thought about it. I'm like, oh, you know, I wear one, right? Like, why not? But, you know, you got to at least have the clout in using it. Like, you can't teach something and you've never done it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that's great advice. Would you say then it kind of almost seems like then if an opportunity presents itself, you jump on it if you feel like you can?
Yeah, I mean, like not all of us get fires all the time, right?
Yeah.
But don't waste one, right? So
Sure.
you go to fire if you're RIT or something, you know, and don't waste it. Throw ladders, you know, if there's bars, cut bars, obviously if you're allowed to, right? And then, you know, when the fire's done, be like, hey, boss, you know, can we go, you know, check out the building? You know, you want to look at the building construction, what kind of way does the fire move throughout the building? And I mean, there's stuff even before fires. Like, you should be going out and doing walkthroughs of your buildings and things like that every day. You should be training every day. And with, you know, social media, online things, there's training everywhere. But I will re-emphasize this because this is a mistake that I've made, is you need to have and make sure that you don't like misinterpret something and use it the wrong way, right? So like, let me say, like, I've taken nozzle forward. Aaron Fields is a good man, great man, knowledgeable, right? Like, my department doesn't run Minutemans. So like, I could apply some of the shit that he does, right? Like, you can do you can apply some of that stuff, but you can't apply all of it.
Yeah.
Right. And you're not going to change the whole freaking department just because you went to a class. You know, so I would say those things. You know, don't ruin your entire capital of who you are or what you do because you feel so strongly about something. You know, you gotta kind of chill out a little bit. You know, things take time, and just kind of work through some things and just perfect what you do, perfect your craft, you know, and hopefully just continue to grow every day.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. I love it. I appreciate that. Yeah. And then as far as like, you know, connecting with people and that kind of stuff, once those people get a little bit more and they're starting to feel those things, what advice would you have in that way? Because it sounds like you've made tons of connections over the fire service world. And how'd you go
Oh
about
man,
doing that? Yeah.
there's I mean, I said it, the internet.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
internet,
I know, but
the internet has pretty much everything. I mean, I'm not really a huge fan of Facebook anymore. It has some very big downfalls. But as far as like information sharing and everything like that, there's, if you love doing this shit, if you love engine work, truck work, whatever, you can find what's called, like a Facebook group, and you can join it, and they got stuff in there about, attack packages, nozzles, hose stuff, pumping, forcible entry. They have everything. But again, I'm going to go back. Don't misapply things, right? Like you can't just see everything and be like, oh, this is the way we do it.
yeah, yeah, spot on, absolutely. Well, anyone listening here, if you got questions for Jeff, throw them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm gonna go head towards like the closing questions or whatever. Unless you got something else you want to share from those things. I mean, it's really cool to hear you talk about them and put some context behind a lot of those things. So again, thanks for sharing all that. I know it's an information dump to throw so much stuff out, but thanks again for sharing all that.
Yeah, no problem.
Um, well, we kind of already talked about it a little bit, but these are kind of personal questions, so here we go. So, what's one mistake that you've made and learned from over the course of your career?
Well, probably a terrible answer, but I probably make a mistake every day,
It's not a
and
terrible answer.
I learn from it every day. And there's a quote, I don't even know who it's from, but it's the only people that don't make mistakes are the people that aren't doing shit. So, you're gonna make mistakes. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. The whole again, another quote. Fail stands for first attempt in learning. So just keep trying shit, and then fail, learn, grow, build.
Awesome. Um, who influenced you the most early in your career? So the context behind this is I believe we don't always get an opportunity to say thank you to people in our first couple years in the fire service, right? Because most people are a little bit worried about that and feel odd and socially awkward about those things. But I like to give you an opportunity to highlight somebody early in your career that either give you a hey kid come here or took you under their wing and maybe you didn't get a chance to, or maybe you did, whatever. Either way, early in your career influenced you positively.
I got a couple. Obviously my grandfather. He wasn't around very long. I think I was 10 years old when he died. But the guys telling the stories from back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Like, I mean, those guys did some crazy shit. Like, they're working cardiac arrest, doing mouth to mouth, and the person throws up in the dude's mouth, doing mouth to mouth, and he spits it out, and he just goes back to it. Like that's disgusting. But they were doing it, right. And my grandfather, we had a huge downtown fire back in the 80s, and the guys that he worked with said that there was a report of somebody inside, so we fucking ran. They didn't have SCBAs like in the 60s, so they ran inside to search for people and came back out. They ate a bunch of shit. I think he went to the hospital for like a day or two, stuff like that. So obviously the stories I hear about my grandfather obviously influenced. And then my dad is another big influence. And also too, my dad, when it comes to like hosting things, like through Fire Nuggets and stuff, he's kind of one of my big inspirations too. He's hosted since like 1998. There's a fire and extrication school out here. And since 1998, he's kind of ran that. And Black Hawk Firefighter Association, he's helped out with that as well. So I kind of get those influences from him. And then lastly, I'm not going to say their names because they'll probably kill me, but just a couple people at work that I work with. They're good mentors, good friends, good people, and I'm just lucky to have those people in my life.
That's awesome. Yeah. Off the script, off the pre question, so you could tell me to pound sand. But do you feel like do you deal with imposter syndrome at all? Given all of the people that you meet and the organizations that you're a part of, do you feel like you deal with that at all?
Um, you, I mean, yes and no, but like at the same time, like anything that like I quote unquote care about, right? Like I've invested a lot of time in, and I don't go out and talk about vertical ventilation because I haven't really done that much of it,
Yeah,
just a couple, times, right? So like that's like we talked about earlier, you gotta have clout in the shit you do.
yeah,
Otherwise, but I mean, I think everybody has that,
yeah.
right? You know,
Cool. Yeah.
so
No, any answer is a good answer. I'm just curious. It's a thing that's been more of a hot topic a lot about a lot of whatever. Either way, um, have you ever? Oh, visitors.
yeah, it's
You're okay. You're fine, dude. Again, look at I'm in my kid's playroom for God's sakes. So you're. um, have you ever lost your passion for the fire service? And then, if you did, what'd you do to get it back, and what keeps you going?
Uh, I would say no. I actually probably have a sick disease where if I feel like if somebody or something is like trying to take my passion away, I feel like I actually double down and I just go screw it. I'm just gonna fucking prove this guy wrong. you know. So it's probably a disease, honestly. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, there's good days and bad days, but yeah, pretty much. I care about giving back and doing good things, and I want to go to fires.
Fuck. Quote of the day there. uh, if you wanted to give someone a sense of how the fire service culture and environment and everything should work, they're going to meet one person. Who's it going to be, right? So you're taking someone that knows nothing about the fire service, and you want to put them with one person so they get the full picture and the right picture in your mind. Who is that person that you're going to put them with?
So this is kind of an interesting one. I went on vacation and I reread Report from Engine Company 82. And for anybody that hasn't read it, I would highly suggest it. Dennis Smith. And I literally just reread the book, so I had to pick this one because I read a quote in there, or I quoted him, I should say. He was an Engine Company 82 in the war years. I mean, their engine, his engine only alone did like 9,000 runs. And they had two engines and two ladder companies in his house, and they all ran those same amount of runs, like right around 9,000 runs, which is more than most fire departments total run, and that's one piece of apparatus. So he put in his book for the members joining the FDNY that he hopes that the young men joining the fire department around the country are doing so out of some sense of commitment to the profession and to the people, not because of other things such as excitement. And I couldn't agree with that quote more. Now today it's more than just excitement. I hope that they're doing it more than just a T-shirt, or if you're looking at volunteer agencies and a pager, or you know um, benefits and things like that, right? Like you actually want people that actually care, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean they connected. You read that book,
Yeah.
they were in the slums, and they connected with their community, even though their community did some pretty messed up shit to them. Like they would throw bricks at them and
That
stuff,
was yeah. I was
but they
just
would
gonna say.
still, yeah. I mean, they would still hold community events and have ice cream trucks come out and hang out with the kids and things like that. So that's what you want.
Yeah. Last one. You ready? Simplest
Yeah,
one, maybe.
yeah.
Best part of the job.
Oh, well, I don't want to wish ill will on anybody, but you don't train, and try to be good at something to not do it. So you want to go to fires. It's just like if you're on a football team, state championship, Super Bowl, whatever, right? Like you don't train to not go, right? So I would say going to fires, and then obviously the people you work with, um, is probably number two.
Perfect. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna do it for us. Thanks again for coming on and sharing all that information. I really hope that it casts cast that net a little bit wider with some of the stuff that you're involved with, and bring some more awareness to it. So thanks for coming and sharing that, and sharing some of your other insight as well. So I really appreciate you coming on. I'm glad we could connect and make it happen.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's going to do it for this episode. So we'll catch you on the next one. I'm going to go on vacation, so you won't probably hear from me for a couple weeks. But have a nice night, everyone, and take it easy.